All right. Well, Callie, welcome to Value Stack Podcast, man. Thanks for joining. Do you want to, introduce yourself, kind of what you're working on here? Why is this big purple cashew in the middle of the screen?
Nice. So thanks, Zach, for the invitation. I'm Callie, a physicist and software developer. I mostly build stuff open source in Bitcoin. I've been pretty active for around 1.5, 2 years now in the space. And one of the projects I've been working on is Cashu, which is Chaumian eCash for Bitcoin. This is what we're going to talk about today, I guess.
Chaumian eCash. So that was, I guess a great place to start would be to talk about what is Chaumian eCash and how is that different, or maybe how that connects to Bitcoin?
So first of all, Chaumian eCash is very different from what Bitcoin is, or what Bitcoiners know usually, because we're used to blockchains and how they are built, right? Chaumian eCash is a digital money system completely independent of how blockchains work, much earlier than blockchains were invented. So this was an idea of David Chaum, who is a very known cryptographer. And he came up with this idea in 1982, before any of the digital financial infrastructure that we know was invented. So long before credit cards and PayPal and all of these things were popular. So 1982, he comes up with this idea called eCash, which is based on a cryptographic scheme called digital signatures. And what this essentially allows you to do is to make payments online with a central server managing the money. However, with the twist that this server doesn't know who's making what payments, basically. So you join a so-called mint. It could be a bank, it could be a custodian of any kind, and that mint gives you digital tokens. So it's a piece of data that you store on your device, on your computer, for example. And this piece of data, you can then go on the internet and shop for things. And if you want to buy a T-shirt, for example, on the internet, you would then send this piece of data to the merchant, much like you would send a piece of cash or give a piece of cash in a physical transaction. And the nice thing about this system is that the mint, so the actual bank who has the money backing this eCash, doesn't know which token when it comes to them, when a token comes back to them for being redeemed, it can't know what token was created and which token was redeemed. Basically, it cannot make the connection between those two events, which gives you all these privacy properties. So it's a completely disconnected system from Bitcoin in a sense, and doesn't have this global ledger type of storage like in a blockchain, but you have this institution, bank, or mint that manages the stack of money, basically, and the transactions are done completely independent of this institution in the middle by sending around eCash digital files around. So that's a very, very short introduction on how it works or what the design is like.
So people are gonna, of course, be like, well, this is just like the normal bank. I thought the whole Bitcoin thing was about getting rid of banks, and obviously this is a custodial manner. Could you perhaps elaborate on some of the differences or benefits that a Chaumian mint might have over, the Federal Reserve, or is it the scale of it, or why is this okay but fiat bad? I guess is my more direct question.
So first of all, the question whether this is for fiat or for Bitcoin or any type of other money isn't really tied to the principle of eCash itself. So eCash, when it was invented, was built for the fiat world. So David Chaum came up with this. Then in the 90s, they made this company called DigiCash, which I think launched in 94. And there the idea was that you send fiat money to this company, DigiCash. They have a bank account. They register that money came in from you. And then they send you these digital tokens onto your computer, as I explained before. And then you'll be able to exchange that on the internet. But why is that something new? It's because of the privacy benefits. So basically, with Chaumian eCash, you can build almost all of the custodial banking services that we have today. That might be your OG fiat bank account at your bank. That might be your wallet of Satoshi wallet for your on your phone. So it's a Lightning wallet on your phone, for example. That could also be your balance on an exchange where you buy Bitcoin. It could also be for miners in a mining pool where they get Bitcoin because they mine, for example. So in all of the situations where we have custodial relationships, it could, in principle, be replaced with an eCash system. So I think it would make sense to just go one step back again, why this is kind of like how I think of eCash being a drop-in replacement for all these custodial systems.
So it's not competing with Bitcoin in a way. It's really because custodial relationships have a benefit. Now they have trade-offs, but there is a benefit to having the ability to do this with a private mint. What I'm kind of hearing. So it's more replacing the digital fiat system, which is the only way we have. So like cash itself, like physical cash, is private when you trade it. But if you're wanting to use digital cash, you have to use the rails of some private entity or the banking system, and you're giving up privacy when you do that. And so this is more like the privacy gains of physical cash with the technological utility of digital cash. Am I accurately summarizing that?
Yeah, that's a good summary. I mean, you not really understand that, when you use Bitcoin in a non-custodial manner, what you do is you sign transactions, you submit those transactions onto the network, and they get mined eventually, and that becomes a Bitcoin transaction, right? So this is nothing that eCash really replaces or anything. There is no replacement for non-custodial Bitcoin transaction.
But however, this doesn't.
We have many.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go on. So we have many custodial relationships in Bitcoin, in the ecosystem itself. One big example is wallet for Satoshi. Everyone will get that. It's the most used Lightning wallet out there. That's just a fact. Even if you wish everyone to use non-custodial Bitcoin, and I would also want that, there's just certain limitations in how fast Bitcoin can scale on chain, which directly translates also on scaling issues, so to speak, on Lightning. You can do it on paperback math. Not everyone will be able to open a Lightning channel in the next couple of years if you want everyone to onboard in Bitcoin, right? And especially if you need to manage those channels and close them, it's not just one channel per person. Anyway, so there is a limitation. There are reasons why many people use custodial services today, and you might like it or not like it. You might work for custodial systems. I don't know, but there's some benefit that people get from it. Now, the question is, how can we improve that? How can we substantially improve the privacy of these custodial relationships? And that's where eCash comes in. So just to summarize very, very briefly how a custodial service, a normal standard default custodial service would work today. For example, let's take again wallet for Satoshi. I'm going to just take that as a prime example because many people will probably know about it. So when you have an account at Wallet of Satoshi, you install the app and then you get some kind of an ID, and on their database, you are listed as a user. So now you're the user Zach, for example. Now, when you send in Bitcoin into your wallet, what they actually do is they receive your Bitcoin, and then on a database, there is a ledger they have on their own servers, which says Zach plus 1 BTC, for example, because you put 1 BTC in. Now your balance on your Wallet of Satoshi account is 1 BTC. If you want to send me now half a BTC, what you would do then is to ask Wallet of Satoshi, hey guys, can you please update your ledger, subtract 0.5 Bitcoin from my account, and please add 0.5 to Calle's account. So they would do that. They would put new transactions into your ledger, subtracting half Bitcoin from you and adding half a Bitcoin to my account. And that is the new state of the system. Now we have two new balances. I have 0.5, you have 0.5. And so this, in brief, is how almost every custodial service works today. This is how your bank account works. This is how Wallet Satoshi works, how Kraken works, and so on. So they keep a list of who has what, right? And for a long time, basically, this was the only option to build stuff because eCash, now this is the alternative system to that, works completely differently. So with eCash, you go, let's say again, Wallet of Satoshi would transition to an eCash system. What you would then instead do is they don't pop up a database where you have an account, I have an account, they have a full view of who has what and who transacts also whom. What they instead do is they just give you these digital pieces of data in return for the Bitcoin you give them. They give you this digital piece of data, that's the eCash. And now you can send me that eCash completely off band. So you can use Telegram, for example, or some other data transmission layer. You can just send me this eCash from your computer to my computer. And then in a last step, I would send that eCash back to Wallet of Satoshi and say, please destroy it and generate a new one. That's how you avoid the double spending, basically, of this piece of data. And but all that would happen without them having this database in which it says Zach has 0.5 BTC, Calle is 0.5 BTC. There is nothing like that in eCash. You just have these digital signatures. They are signed and then given out to the users, and then they transact with them off band, so to speak. And that's what gives you this great privacy benefit.
Wow. Okay. So they don't, the mint in this case doesn't know that I sent the half a Bitcoin worth of tokens to you because there's no unique identifier on these tokens. They just exist. And all they know is this wallet minted this many tokens for this many Bitcoin. And then at a future time, this wallet burned this many tokens for the equal equivalent of Bitcoin.
They don't even know that it's a wallet. They have no way of knowing. So eCash Mint has no concept of a user. There is just, I got Bitcoin in and I give you eCash out. And later someone comes back and gives me eCash and I give you Bitcoin in return. So that's basically the interactions the Mint has with their users. Okay. But you're right in that still, when you get the eCash, the Mint doesn't really know who's transacting with whom. Right. So there's a very simple thought experiment or example I can give so people can just imagine what's happening in the background, because all of this was just high-level description. If you like, I just give you a physical example of how this blind signature scheme works. So let's imagine I have a piece of paper. Right? On that piece of paper now, you write on that piece of paper, Zach has 1 BTC, right? And you take that paper and now you put it into an envelope. And this envelope is not a normal envelope. It's an envelope made with carbon paper, right? Carbon paper is the paper where you write on top of it and it presses through the paper and leaves this writing on the paper.
It's for like drawing and stuff. Yeah, I've seen. Okay.
Exactly. So you take this contract that you have written, Zach has 1 BTC, and you put it into this carbon paper envelope, and now you enclose it, and now you send that envelope to the Mint. And the Mint gets that envelope, and you send also 1 BTC to the Mint, and the Mint says, thank you for your Bitcoin. I will sign now your contract, and takes this envelope without opening it and signs the outside of this envelope. And now sends you the envelope back. And because this wasn't real paper, it was encryption, you're the only one who's able to open that envelope. So you open the envelope and you see this contract that you have originally written in which it says Zach has 1 Bitcoin. And it has a signature of the Mint now on this contract. But the Mint has never seen this contract. So it doesn't know that you're Zach, for example, right? So this is something that you wrote on the paper before. So now you have this certificate from the Mint that the Mint has never seen, but the Mint knows that when you go back now to the Mint and say, hey, Mint, I want my Bitcoin back, so here's the contract that we had, and you present it to the Mint will say, well, I never saw this contract before, but I can see that signature is actually my signature. They know it's
valid.
You get your Bitcoin back, right?
So this, I mean, a couple things like are coming into my mind. I mean, this seems like a way for Bitcoin to scale from both a transaction standpoint, but also from a privacy standpoint. Because it does. I mean, while it seems so great that like there's a central point of authority for like, I guess the grand mint, if you will, like that controls like how much money is in circulation. But there's like these little sub mints that kind of hide the unnecessary data from the bigger blockchain that's publicly available to everyone. So like I'm thinking like, in a small community where trust is okay because you trust the people that, you can't trust everyone, but you can have a smaller circle of trust. This is like where something like that could work, right? Where they don't need to necessarily have to broadcast everything, and they don't have to worry about the mint just like walking off with their Bitcoin because it's a smaller central point of trust.
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, again, I'm trying to make this very clear. This is not special to Bitcoin itself. I wouldn't say eCash is a way to, it's a layer of Bitcoin or anything like that. But it's certainly
a way to scale. It can be used for Bitcoin.
How exactly? So you can increase the number of people using Bitcoin by going to custodial services in the first place. This is what we're seeing. I mean,
right.
Again, the example would be Wallet of Satoshi, the biggest service provider for Lightning wallets. Although if you want to be really pedantic and maxi about it, it's not real Bitcoin because you're not running your own node, you don't manage your own keys. But I mean, obviously you have Bitcoin in your Wallet of Satoshi account, you're sending it around, so it is Bitcoin. There's
it's the same as if, I mean, just to try to equate this, it's the same as if your Cash App Bitcoin is not real Bitcoin, or your Chaumian Mint tokens are not real Bitcoin, but they spend equally, assuming the other person accepts them. Is that right?
Absolutely. That is absolutely right. And eCash is now a way how we can make these services much, much more private. It is just where we are able to transition these systems that have full transparency. They know exactly what their users are doing, into systems where the service providers can choose to not know anything about you. Now, again, this has been around since the 80s, right? And as I said, they also made this company in the 90s, and they were very successful with it. This was before credit cards took off. So we could have been on a timeline in this universe where most of our fiat services already used eCash. That was the plan. But it didn't work because, this is my theory, but it didn't work because it was the fiat world. Right. You cannot build stuff in the
incentives.
Fiat world like you can build. It's just not possible. There is not open source fiat stuff, right? There's banks having deals, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. In this case, they didn't, and we don't have privacy now. Now, imagine someone would come up with eCash on fiat today. You would probably, go to jail immediately. You cannot offer privacy
right
like that
for money
in today's
transfer.
Fiat world anymore.
Oh, totally.
That is simply not. That's not the case. But so this was the whole idea was buried. It was dead for now decades, and Bitcoin came back, and that's how I see it. Bitcoin is the money, the native money of the internet, and Bitcoin is what people choose to build stuff on, right? And that's what you see. And the reason why we're talking about eCash today is because Bitcoin is here, and eCash can have some kind of a revival because we have found the money of the internet.
Yeah. So if I can summarize it in a sentence, this eCash, in at least as it relates to Bitcoin, it's a way to privately transfer Bitcoin value without transferring Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
Because you're not moving the Bitcoin,
sense,
but you are transferring the value
it scales
of it.
Bitcoin because you don't need to do on-chain transactions, for example, to send money around.
It's like an open dime, kind of. I mean, you just hand it to the other person, and then it's like, I transferred the value in that regard. Like if you hand someone an open dime with a Bitcoin on it, you have given them one Bitcoin, but there's no blockchain transaction. It's similar in that concept.
But it's important to always, say, I don't want this to, I don't want to hide this or anything. It's a custodial system. You trust the mint. as you trust your bank that they will give you your fiat back when you ask them, you have to trust them in this case. In the open dime example, you also have some kind of trust because you need to trust that the keys of the open dime were never read from the device.
Right.
So you can't really prove that, I don't know, NVK's company, of course, I trust them in a social sense, but you cannot prove theoretically that there is not some entity out there who has the private keys to your open dime. In that sense, nothing is really trustless except for doing an on-chain transaction. Nothing really is. But as we've established before, that is unfortunately the reality. The Bitcoin blockchain is limited in size and scope and speed.
So this isn't a trade-off that you're required to make either, right? Like that's, I think, a crucial point that I want to make sure we don't skip over. Like with fiat, like it's a gun to your head. Like you have to use this to pay your taxes and all. Whereas you're not being forced to use Bitcoin in a Chaumian mint fashion. Like if you want to send it peer to peer or like broadcast it to the blockchain, or you want to use Lightning, you can do so, right? This is an opt-in thing where if you as a user, you are consciously deciding because you're aware that yes, the mint could, hightail out of here with my coins, but the risks and maybe the amount that I'm doing it with have made it such that it's not, the risks don't outweigh the rewards, and the rewards being I can move this value instantly, privately, and I think it's no fee as well, right? It's like zero fee.
Yeah, exactly. And thanks for making that point, because this is something that maybe we should call like fiat derangement syndrome that we Bitcoiners also still suffer from, in the sense that we know from the fiat world that there is only two extremes. There is you have the money in your pocket, you have the cash under your mattress, or it is at the bank. And there's this large gap between physical cash and the big bloody institution that you cannot and should not trust. And there's nothing in between, basically. Nothing left in between. Yeah. Everything was just
you've seen the regional, I mean, in the US, like you've seen all of the small, like local and regional banks, they all get gobbled up by the big banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan. There's very few like regional small branch banks. And I mean, I'm just kind of thinking like that is sort of the intermediary. I mean, but they're FDIC members, so that's not the same. It's still
that's the reality. If you would ask people how much they trust their local bank, you would find that it is on a spectrum. Trust is on a spectrum. That is just the case. And in Bitcoin, we can see that again. I mean, I'm working on LMBits, for example. LMBits is great software for those who don't know it. It's something that you can install on your node, and it gives you the ability to just generate infinitely many wallets. So you can become this small Uncle Jim type of custodian for your community, for example. So this is something that is not, in the fiat world, you cannot put this onto the scale. There is no point on the scale for a system like LMBits. There is no way to become the Uncle Jim for your local neighborhood. Or
Callie, another thing I was thinking of too, as you're saying that, is like people in the U.S. and Europe, in the developed parts of Europe, and it's like they don't need this as much. But you go to like rural Africa where they don't have the fiat system rails like we do, and maybe they're okay with, maybe they don't have the technology too. So like maybe they're okay with having a central trust in their village where like the actual Bitcoin are held there and they're moving it back and forth via the, Chaumian mint that they set up in their local community. Like I was just thinking like maybe that's an obvious application where like, it seems like, well, why will we need this? Like I can just pay on-chain fees. It's like, well, you're not everyone, right? And we're talking about scaling Bitcoin to the whole world. There's a lot of different use cases and to cover.
Yeah, that's a good example. I mean, in a traditional sense or in a traditional setup, this would mean that if you have this village and there's one guy or a couple of Bitcoiners that manage the Bitcoin for those who use it, it would mean that they know exactly who has what and who is transacting. That is a problem. You don't want that, especially if it's not necessary. And this is exactly where eCash can be a kind of a drop-in replacement for the systems that we have. But another way to think about it is, now you've made the example with the small community offline. This is a physical community in some, you said African village.
Yeah, and especially if it's like war torn too. Like imagine if it's like they're being like a country that's like constantly in and out of like war, and where their local community that's like not safe. And so they don't feel confident holding their Bitcoin private keys in their home, or maybe, but there is a centralized place well, I guess you could go either way. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. If you have this use case of custodianship and you have it's reality, you cannot wish it away. It doesn't matter what you want for Bitcoin. This is how things already are.
That's why they came about.
What already is, you have to fix it, and this is where eCash really comes in. But so I wanted to make this example of you said it could be a village, but we have many of these villages on the internet.
Online village,
for
right?
Example,
right. Great.
Online villages everywhere. So look at Stacker News, for example. I love Stacker News. It's great. But it's a typical example where you have this small custodial service. You don't give a fuck about, these $5 or something that you put there. That is the custodial risk that you take for the sake of using the website, right? But the price you pay for this is that they know how much you have, what you're upvoting, what you're downvoting, etc. This wouldn't be necessary in a system with eCash. That would be one thing. There are other privacy-oriented services out there which need payments. I don't know. We are talking about Nostr a lot lately. You want you want relays, for example, to be paid. Do you really need a system that needs to track who paid what, for example, for that? So that is, again, one of the
so you're saying instead of using Lightning, you could use this Chaumian Mint.
You can use Lightning directly. I mean, if it's possible, you should use it. But again, also with Lightning, you have privacy implications that most users of Lightning are not really aware of. But Lightning isn't perfect either in terms of privacy. So that's the funny thing. eCash literally also upgrades the privacy just compared to Lightning itself. But with Lightning, you can stay completely non-custodial, of course. But for Nostr particularly, I see also many possible benefits by using something like eCash. Also, I mean, eCash, as I tried to explain before, is a bearer token. So even if it's not the real Bitcoin on chain that you have with this piece of digital data, that is this eCash, it represents the data that represents the money is on your computer. That is a bearer token. If you lose it, it's gone.
How do you know that the mint will honor the redemption of it for real Bitcoin back? And do you have to go redeem it at the exact same mint that minted it, or can you do it at any mint that's in the network?
You need to because of how the cryptography works. You need to go to the mint that issued you this eCash. And to your question, how do you know that the mint will honor its promise? That is the trust assumption.
I see.
Case. You don't know that. It's important to realize that you cannot take the eCash and just go on chain, is what we would say. In case of conflict, just say, Mint, you don't want to cooperate with me. I don't care. I go to on chain. This is not possible. That's also the reason why I don't call eCash a layer of Bitcoin. Like Lightning is a layer of Bitcoin, because in the case of Lightning, for example, you open this channel.
It's trustless.
In case something goes wrong, you can always say, okay, I don't want this relationship with you anymore. I'm going on chain, and there's no one who can stop you basically from going on chain. So in that sense, in my view, in my pedantic definition of what a layer of Bitcoin needs to be, is you need to be able to go on chain to resolve a conflict somehow.
Right.
And with eCash, that's not possible.
So the mint can tell you, nope, sorry, you got the tokens. We're not giving you the Bitcoin back. But you can't be sure of that. But can you be sure that the tokens that you have are not, because you said something about double spending earlier, like with the burn and mint feature. So although you may have to trust the mint that they will give you your Bitcoin back, do you have to trust them that there also aren't, multiple tokens core? Like, how do you know they're not fractional reserving the tokens to Bitcoin on the back end?
That is also an unsolved problem still. I think this is unfortunately theoretically unsolved. I don't know of any method yet how you could be able to prove that the amount of eCash a mint has given out is at maximum the amount of Bitcoin they have in their reserves. So there is nothing out there yet. If we come up with anything, you trust me, I'm the first one who wants to add that to eCash, but there is nothing yet.
Well, however, is that a problem? Like, do you see that as a problem to adopting this type of app?
No, not at all. I mean, again, this is where we're coming from, is typical custodial services. This is what we're trying to improve.
It's opt-in, right?
Improving it in every sense.
You don't have to use it.
We're improving something that already exists. We don't solve all the problems at once.
Right. It's not a silver bullet, I think is okay. So it solves certain problems in certain situations. It's not meant to solve everything. Like some people who are, Bitcoin nuts say it's like, Bitcoin fixes everything, right? Like this is not meant to fix everything. This is meant to fix certain.
There's nothing in the universe that fixes everything. Everything comes with its own compromises. Everything.
Are you sure about that?
What? I'm a robot. I can fix anything.
Very robotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could maybe.
I could tell that to OpenAI. It can fix anything. Well, this was a cool intro to that part. So I understanding just like the kind of background and higher level concepts about Chaumian mints, and I'd like to segue into Cashu itself, the app, and what you're building, and then we can kind of go from there. So so we've been talking about Chaumian mints, like the higher level, like what it is, but what is Cashu, and how is it implementing this Chaumian mint that we've been talking about into Bitcoin, or using the Lightning layer to on and off ramp these mint tokens?
Yeah, so Cashu is basically an implementation of eCash for Bitcoin. So I came up with this by scanning through some work that other people have already prepared about how you would be able to implement this blinded signature scheme using elliptic curve cryptography, which is the cryptography that we use on Bitcoin. So everyone is comfortable with it and we know it's secure. And after having found that, I just went into this frantic coding session and came up with a prototype within a couple of days. That was the moment when Cashu was born. And the idea from the beginning was to just completely tie it to Lightning. That means these mints that give you eCash, they operate on the Lightning network. They basically ask you to pay a Lightning invoice for, let's say, 1,000 sats. And after paying the 1,000 sats per Lightning, you then receive eCash tokens in return. And 1 Satoshi of eCash is 1 Satoshi you will get back on the Lightning network, basically. And then you get these eCash tokens, you transact with others, and yada, yada, yada. If you then want to redeem it back onto the Lightning network, you send the eCash back to the mint and ask the mint, hey, mint, can you please pay this Lightning invoice for me? And that is how you peg out basically from the eCash layer back into the Lightning layer. And so I came up with this, and it got quite some traction immediately because of how eCash is perceived in general, because it's, I guess, such a cypherpunk thing with a long history. People were comfortable already to know what eCash is, and many people immediately got the idea that this is a significant improvement for custodial, privacy improvement for custodial services potentially. And since then, we've been working very hard to make Cashu, first of all, an app. So there are multiple applications that implement this whole idea. There are 2 graphical Cashu wallets. There are 2 or 3 other Cashu wallets that work in the command line. And we're focusing much more actually on the protocol side of things, which means that the idea of Cashu is not to become a one wallet that you can then use and that replaces one of the custodial services out there. But on the contrary, my ideas are, I have more grander vision for this whole thing is to become a protocol that is easy to implement for others so they can adopt eCash into their services. So I imagine services like Stack and Use, for example, just seeing this and realizing, hey, this is literally now becoming possible. There are libraries out there that help you to implement eCash into your own existing service. And let's just put some time in there and upgrade our custodial service that we have today into a much, much more private service that we could be offering to our users. So we're trying to keep it very simple. Cashu itself, there are now also a set of protocol points that we call Cashu nuts. So it's a notation, usability, and terminology. Cashu nuts describe how to implement the Cashu protocol. And with that, you will be able to make your own wallet and make your own mint. And with those pieces, if you follow the protocol, it is an open protocol, so everyone can contribute it. But crucially, they're also interoperable. So if you follow the same protocol as everyone else, then your Cashu client will be compatible with all the other Cashu clients out there. So you'll be able to exchange eCash from one wallet to another, even if they don't share the same mint. So they will be able to use the mint that this eCash token comes from, and then just on the spot, for example, exchange it for Lightning Satoshis, or just move the balance from one mint to another mint. So have this whole ecosystem of wallets and mints that can talk to each other, with Lightning being the connecting tissue between them, basically.
Okay, so I thought you had said earlier, maybe just to clarify, I thought you said that you had to redeem it at the mint that created it.
Yeah, good catch. That is true, but that is completely true. But the way we are currently working on things is, we have this so-called approach called multi-mint, which is that a token itself tells the receiver where it comes from. So a token, when I send you a token from a mint that you don't know, for example, I have a token from my local branch, and you don't know that branch, and I'll just send you this token over. And you'll receive the token and it says, hey, I'm from this and that mint, and you can redeem me there. And you'll connect to that. Your client, your wallet will automatically connect to that mint, ask you first, do you really trust this mint? Do you want to receive this eCash? And if you say yes, then you'll hold eCash that belongs to that one mint. And the moment you don't want to trust this mint anymore, there's a very slick UX, basically, where you click a couple of buttons and then you just burn this eCash in one mint and send over your funds via Lightning to the mint that you want to trust. So you can hold balances on multiple mints, eCash from multiple mints. But since Lightning is something that all mints speak, we can use it to just move funds around, basically, from one mint to another by burning eCash in one mint and creating eCash in return at the other mint.
Okay,
that makes it a bit more clear.
Yeah, no, that helps. So you can hold, let's say, like in a Cashu client, like a wallet, just for easy terminology, like in a Cashu client wallet, you can hold multiple tokens from different mints and see them all in the same spot. Is that right?
That is right, exactly. There are the Nutstash wallet, that is one of the wallets out there, is nutstash.app.
Nutstash. Oh my gosh, the names you guys come up with. My goodness. Okay, and then
and also Cashu.me, the other client that I'm working on, both have this multi-mint capability, so you can hold balances on multiple mints. And it's very easy to swap the balance from one mint to another mint, basically. Okay. But you're doing all of that without any of those mints knowing actually what's happening.
So if you send me you send me some tokens from your local mint, I receive them, and I'm like, I don't know who this mint is. I don't trust this mint. I want to make these tokens my own local mint. In like a click of a button or something, I can easily go boop and switch them from like your mint tokens, your local mint tokens, to my own mint tokens.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. And if you don't want to trust any mint at all, you can just exchange it immediately to Lightning Network. So You can basically, if someone sends you an eCash token and you say, I don't want to hold
you'll have to
eCash,
trust
I
them
want
just
it
for that,
on my Lightning node.
for that moment.
You trust it for the moment, exactly.
Right.
And that's when you as a person would consider the transaction as finished, as completed, is when you get it back on your Lightning node, for example.
Okay, one other question on that. So if I have tokens, like let's say I got 1,000 sats from my mint, and then you sent me 1,000 token sats from your mint. So now I got 2,000 mint tokens sats from two different mints, and I want to withdraw them. Can I withdraw them both at the same time to one Lightning address, one Lightning invoice, or does it have to be two separate ones?
It has to be two separate transactions.
Lightning.
Yeah.
So what I would then do, I guess I would move the tokens from your mint, redeem them from my own mint, and then do one Lightning transaction to peg it out.
That's what we would do.
Because you don't want to do, because every time you do it in and out on Lightning, and you do pay some sort of fee to bridge it, right?
You do pay some sort of this Lightning fee between the mints, so you can imagine the mints both doing a Lightning transaction between them to move money from one mint to another mint. That's like
okay. So if I have 1,000 mint tokens in your mint, and you send it to me, and now I have 1,000 in mine and 1,000 in yours, and I want to move that 1,000 to my own, maybe it does cost me, like it's a Lightning invoice on the back end that moves your mint tokens into my own mint tokens.
Exactly. So that is the relationship between the mints, but it's similar to paying someone who has a bank account in a different bank, right? So the banks themselves need some kind of a relationship in between.
I see.
You only use the Lightning network. That's the only relationship. So if there is no direct relationship between two mints, that means there is no direct channel. You will pay the Lightning fees on top. But there is the model that I think is not unrealistic at all, which would make completely sense, is that over time you would see Cashu mints opening direct channels between each other because they're expected to have lots of traffic. And with a direct Lightning channel, you have zero fee transactions. So
if
you can push funds from one mint to another one without any cost. The mint would choose to do that because they want to offer the best experience for their users, right? And since they're all speaking the same Cashu protocol and they're all speaking the same Lightning protocol, it would just make sense to lower the cost of transactions even more, such that you even have Lightning transactions for free.
Sweet, man. What are you, like, where are you 6 months from now? Like what's your plans, like in the short to intermediate term future? Like, how are you planning to grow the protocol and spread awareness and encourage adoption of this?
So I know that some projects are interested in this setup themselves. So 6 months from now, I think we'll be seeing that the wallets that exist today will become more mature, more stable. And I think we're already great. In very short time now, we came up with a couple of wallet implementations that work. And we'll just keep working on them and make them more stable such that people can see what Cashu can be. But I think the more significant developments will be on the library side for developers. So it will become much more easier for developers to implement it for themselves. So we're working harder behind the scenes, trying to nail every piece of the protocol down such that it's coherent, and have libraries that others can just import. Cashu.js, for example, that would be a JavaScript library, and boom, you have Cashu abilities on your website. And it will become very easy to become a Cashu client and mint and upgrade your Bitcoin infrastructure to that. And that is my main goal for now. I think so. From the feedback I'm getting from especially the developer folks and guys working on stuff is very promising. I just think it's great to put eCash out there. I still don't know what will, all the things I cannot predict them because it's such a untested territory, and I'm sure things will happen that I can't predict for now. But this is our focus.
So you're focusing on the development of the protocol, not building a front end client. But
we have them, and
right, you already have them, and
the front end is very important to get people's imagination going. But I know that you cannot revolutionize the world by
Right.
building a single wallet application.
Well, that's like it's
I
like
think,
Nostr. Like there's so many clients that have implemented Nostr now in the last. It's like I can't even keep track. There's
yeah.
so
Or
and that's the
imagine
model you all are.
LNURL.
Same with LNURL,
Exactly.
yeah, and you guys are going for that type of distribution implementation.
Yes, we're going for that. We're trying to keep Cashu stupid and simple, very simple to implement. Really taking care to not add too much complexity into it, because I've implemented LNURL and Nostr and all this stuff myself multiple times. I know what it feels like to discover something and then start trying to build something. And simplicity is one of the most important factors for the success of a technology. It's not apparent to users usually that simplicity is even more important than functionality sometimes. Yeah,
that's why custodial services have grown so dramatically, even in the Bitcoin space where self-custody is so important, is because it's easy and people trade privacy for convenience all the time. And so having a protocol like this that is convenient and also is a good UX, that's the killer adoption curve, feature there. That's the strategy.
Yep.
But
I agree.
What are obviously okay, so you want to keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS method, but you also, it's still, it's still early. Like what are you planning to add into the protocol to make it easier to use and adopt? Like, are there certain things that you're working on right now that are in development to do that?
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that are happening right now in parallel. I think one of the big unsolved mysteries of eCash is still the recovery. So as I said before, when you lose your eCash, it's gone. So that means, how do you make sure that people don't lose their money? Because the mint cannot help you. It doesn't really know you. It can never recover the funds because it has never seen the eCash, as I tried to explain before. So there are right now, the only way to make sure that you can recover your lost eCash is to make backups, which is a very painful experience because it is very similar to Lightning. You need to make a backup for every single transaction that you do. Because you need the current state of the wallet in order to be able to reproduce, to restore it in case of a emergency.
Is there automatic backup feature, and is that backup it's a JSON file, right?
There's not yet. We're in the Cashu wallet and in Notstash as well. There is just a single click button that you press, and then the JSON that has the whole backup is just downloaded onto your computer. But we didn't even implement a very good way to restore this JSON yet. It's just for for the real emergency,
just so you don't permanently lose it.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible to restore it, but there is not a good UX path yet for that, because it's just not worth it, because it's not really convenient.
Right.
However, so that's where we're going to. Is we found a solution. There is a solution to this. Is just briefly. Mentioning it is by using deterministic secrets instead of just completely random secrets. When you generate the eCash and you generate these secrets that the mint then blindly signs, you can use very similar techniques as with Bitcoin. BIP39 is deterministic secret derivation for HD wallets in Bitcoin. I hope I don't confuse it with BIP32 now. I think it's 39. It's HD wallets, and HD wallets in Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, we had the same problem in the beginning as well, is when Bitcoin Core, the client, would just generate a bunch of random addresses for you, and you'd have to back them up. And if you don't back them up, you lose private keys for each of these addresses, and your Bitcoin is gone.
Right.
And
that's why there were so many lost Bitcoin before, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there were also issues in the app and what gets backed up and what not. So if you mess up that backup, your Bitcoin is gone.
That was the wallet.dat file. I remember those.
Yeah, exactly. It would only save the ones, the first 200 or something, and then after that it would just ignore that, and things like that.
Oh goodness.
But we don't have that headache anymore, because we we came up with this deterministic secret derivation or
the
randomness
seed
derivation type. You have a seed phrase that is just the mother randomness,
master
and
key.
from that mother number, you just deterministically derive new secrets. And if you lose it, you just have this one seed that you need to recover, and you can automatically derive all the addresses that were derived from the mother seed. And similar things, we have a proof of concept. It works, but it's not in production yet, and it needs more testing and research. But we've come up with something very similar for the eCash stuff. So very soon you'll be able to just write down a seed phrase, like in Bitcoin, store it somewhere, and you'll be able to restore your entire wallet just with that single secret that you stored.
Yeah,
so that is something that I'm looking forward to. I think it's still one of the roadblockers where you would say, wait, so it gives me so many benefits over normal custodianship, but there is one big drawback, which
you can lose it.
You can lose it and it's gone. But
and it's
we're working
gone.
on it. We found a solution. It's gonna come.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be, it's like once you get that, the exponential growth is gonna kick off, but it's probably gonna be hard to convince people to use it in mass until there's a recovery method that they can you don't have to be a super coder to do it. Like, I know personally, like, people, once seed phrases came about and all that, gave people a lot more confidence to actually take self-custody of their Bitcoin. So I can imagine this being it's a building block, right? And like, you're building the base of the protocol, to which, the other clients and front ends and recovery methods will then, come about after, right?
Exactly.
Well, are you? So is this going to be compatible with like other? Because like Fedimint has they're a Chaumian mint, right? So is this a totally different protocol than that? And how is that implementation different?
So Fedimint is completely separate from it. I think the biggest difference in terms of cryptography is that Fedimint uses a different cryptographical scheme. So it is, by principle, it's not compatible with it. Both are obviously, I think we have the same kind of security, but obviously the biggest distinction of Fedimint itself, which is, I love Fedimint. I know the developers. I'm friends with them. There's no, I'm not trying to sell a Cashu over Fedimint or anything like that. The thing that Fedimint distinguishes itself is the federated custody part, which is an incredible achievement by Eric, who's the lead developer there. He came up with a way to offer this eCash services with not just one single party controlling one mint, but you actually have a quorum of a couple of people, or a 5 of 6 or 7 kind of multi-sig situation, where you have multiple parties controlling a single mint. And that means that you have more security on the custody side, that the rug pull in the case of a completely anonymous mint provider, for example, just the chances are lower, because you would have, you would need 5 people cooperating basically to rug their users in order to be able to steal the funds them.
Right.
But still, I mean, Fedimint itself is also a custodial service in that sense, just that the custody is shared between multiple shoulders, so to speak. Apart from that, they're very similar in philosophy and design, and it's just, I would say Fedimint and Cashu are probably hopefully I'm not forgetting anything that I should know of, but there aren't many eCash projects out there in the world. Fedimint and Cashu are really leading the way there in eCash in general. Just like us Bitcoiners being at the forefront of this whole development really makes me happy.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's moving fast. Like, I think you launched this like a month ago, 2 months ago, and it's like already
a couple months.
Yeah. Well, now there's a big purple Cashu background in the middle of my screen, so
yeah, exactly.
The Cashu happening. Don't move too far. You won't hear me anymore. All Well, let's see. Is there another way to fund the mint other than Lightning? Like, can you do it on chain? Is that on the roadmap?
That is absolutely possible in theory, but it's not even yet on the roadmap because we found it is such a low priority for now that we just didn't bother implementing it. It is a low-hanging fruit, so it will be easy to add this to the whole system. But we chose, like in the very beginning, just to build everything on Lightning because it is much, much easier to start using it. I think Lightning is really something that you need. Again, coming back to the point that Bitcoin was necessary in order for eCash to really take off, is I think to make it more precise, Lightning is actually necessary to bootstrap little small economies on the internet. And that's how I see eCash systems on the internet being deployed are little small economies, closed systems where
like
you
a
have
Discord group or something.
Offering, yeah, exactly.
Where you're okay with the trust.
It is so much easier to bootstrap something with Lightning today because you can just, as a user, you can just put 500 sats there and try it out and just get a feeling for what it is. And, just get the whole concept of it for a mere couple of sats that you need to put in there to start using it. And it's immediate, it's instant. So many benefits of Lightning itself. Of course, Lightning itself makes it also a bit more challenging because referring back to the multi-sig federated system approach, federations can only really control on-chain Bitcoin together because multi-sig itself is only really a thing on-chain. There is no multi-sig channel, although channel itself is technically speaking a true multi-sig between both parties, but we still don't have shared ownership of
Lightning channels, right?
Exactly. So therefore, also a federated approach on Lightning Network doesn't really work yet. Maybe some new cryptography in the future will change that, but right now that's what it is. But Lightning is really, I think, we should focus more building on stuff on Lightning directly because I think this is also the more future-proof path. If everything goes the way as expected, I don't think that on-chain Bitcoin transactions will be, very convenient for most of the people anytime soon.
No, they won't. You see them getting crowded out now just by people minting art galleries on chain. So, UTXO,
for example,
UTXO consolidations are getting, outbid by JPEG creators. And so, you're going to see more and more. That's why Lightning was for me, like when I was learning about Bitcoin, Lightning was so key to understanding, okay, we don't need altcoins because it can scale. But before I just didn't understand because there was a pretty obvious like, well, not everybody can use Bitcoin on chain. Like if we want 10 billion people using it. So Lightning and Cashu and, just Chaumian mints in general. Like I think even like custodial services, like moving, like when you said, like you were saying at the beginning of the recording, when we were talking about like traditional custodial arrangements, like they take 0.5 out of your balance and put 0.5 in mine. They're just it's still a ledger. It's just their own private ledger. So, but I think all of these things are going to be key. You're not going to see just one way to move Bitcoin. You're going to move Bitcoin through centralized custodians. You're going to move Bitcoin through Chaumian mints. You're going to move it through Lightning channels. Maybe the institutions themselves, the big boys, are moving funds on chain because that's the only people who can afford it. In a practical sense, and they need that confirmation for business continuity. So I think you're going to do it all. Yep. That's mine.
Yeah, that is also how I view things. I think we as Bitcoiners, we just need to stay on top of everything at once.
Easier
there
said
is no, exactly. There's no real difference between Bitcoin and any other altcoin. For example, Litecoin was just a fork of Bitcoin. It's just the same code just forked off and with a little bit of change in the consensus in the proof of work or something, right? But technically speaking, Bitcoin works the same way as all the other altcoins as well. But what we have that altcoins don't have is this insane number of people working on many different
because
things
Bitcoin's not just a technology; it's also an economic system, and it's also a social experiment. Like, it's like the reason that Bitcoin, because you're totally right. Like Litecoin is a fork, Bitcoin Cash is a fork. Like the reason that it's not that Bitcoin's code is like, better, and it's that for many reasons, economic incentives, the first mover advantage, the organic growth, like it's all of these kind of soft qualities that are hard to really measure,
and harder to reproduce.
Right, and those are the things that make it special.
Thousands of developers just switch onto your shitcoin overnight.
Right.
That's just not going to happen.
It's not just the technology. It's the combination of like social adoption, economic incentives, and the technology. It's like, that's why we were talking about, if it was just some, tech project, it wouldn't, there wouldn't be so many podcasts about it and so many people that have dedicated their life towards building upon it.
And that also means that things are going to happen that you don't like, maybe. I mean, for example, for me personally, one example of that would be stable coins on Bitcoin, or all these things that people are working on today. I know somehow this is going to have also negative effects on Bitcoin as well, because it might screw the incentives and so on. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy that Bitcoiners themselves, it's from our tribe, so to speak, just explore into every single direction that is possible. Just build more, increase the size of the ecosystem, trying to just conquer all the different aspects of what you could do with money.
Well, it's if Bitcoin is an open system, and it's the honey badger, as many say, the Baltic honey badger conference, right? If Bitcoin gets stronger over time by design, then we shouldn't even be trying to control it or stop people from doing like things like moving stable coins on it or minting JPEGs. Like if it fits the rules, it's, because if we start trying, I mean, aren't we just going back to like what we're trying to get out of, and which is the centralized control. So I think like if you totally agree with you. Like there's going to be things that happen throughout Bitcoin's history, and we're very early in it, that you're not going to like. People, using custodial services is maybe one of them, but it's, it's just not the reality. And as a libertarian minded person, like, I think that's got to stay priority number one, is like people have to be left to their own free will to do what they want. And that's part of what Bitcoin's ecosystem, kind of the rules that were created, that it abides by, were founded on.
Yeah, and we really have to cherish this openness and being, inviting more people into joining Bitcoin and starting to build on it.
Right.
It's literally the lifeline of Bitcoin are people joining it. And for different reasons, they do that. But we need to make sure that more and more people find this and choose from their own interests. Why would they start building a project on Bitcoin and not on shitcoin XYZ? Totally. That is what we really need to cherish and welcome people and make sure that those who join Bitcoin stay in Bitcoin, which is actually most of the time the case anyway. So once you're in, you stay in, but hopefully attract more and more people, because we really need them, especially developers. We need much more many more developers.
Yep. Well, we got a long way to go, man. But, people like you are out there building for the open source community and for like protocols. It's like you could have built. I mean, you're clearly talented if you built this stuff in like a couple days. And you said you were a physicist, so like I don't even know how you learned to code. But you could have built like a little private, a closed source app, and got some VC funding and like slapped some branding and got hired, but you're building like out in the open and something that you're not just trying to capture all the value for your own private means. And I think that it's noble, man. And then we need people like that who care more about like the future of what we can build, like sort of like causes that are greater than themselves, than their own short-term profit motives that we see so often. So So thank you for, just be out there building and, I don't know, developing and being on this show too, man. Cause, I've got
Thanks, man.
this looks like a phallic symbol in the middle of our screen. So,
It is. It just has glasses on.
yeah, it covers it up, right? It's like the black box. Do you want to do like a quick? That was like kind of all I had here. I thought maybe we'd wrap up with just like a quick demo of the web app if you have a few extra minutes. And
yeah, sure, man. This is unprepared, but I'm sure there are no bugs left, right?
yeah, right. Okay, well, let's see. So
How do you do that?
well, we're going to find out. So what do I go to? Versal. It was Nutstash.
Oh, you can go to cashu.me. Cashu.me is the one that I'm working on. The other one is nutstash.app. That is by Gandalf21, one of the greatest people I've met on the internet in the last couple of months.
Gandalf, yeah. He and I have done some spaces. We've done some spaces together.
No, I think you're confusing him with the BTC Gandalf.
Oh, yeah. That's who I'm thinking. You're totally, yeah. That's totally who I'm thinking of.
That's good. That's good, OPSEC.
All right. So let's see. So it's recording the screen. You can't see what I'm doing. So that's a challenge. Let's see. So I'm on the screen. It says get eCash. So I'm going to hit what? I have 1 sat in a mint from Legend Bits.
Wait, so I'm gonna open up my wallet, which probably looks the same as yours, but no one can see it right now. I'm gonna go and send you some eCash through this chat app right now, through this Gather Town.
Okay, is it how? Right? Okay, we're gonna figure out how to get that.
It should work.
Okay,
let's see if the eCash goes.
Oh yeah,
goes missing in between.
I think we're good.
I just now press send eCash, and I get this long string. Now I copy that string that represents the eCash.
Okay.
I'm going to send you a message through the messenger here, and you should see a bunch of
I got this chat. Okay, starts. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to copy this.
Just copy that. This is the money. This is what.
That's the money.
Moved. That's the money.
Okay.
Yeah, and you will say get eCash and paste it in there.
Get eCash. Oh, and then I just paste it, and then hit receive. Oh, look at that! I got 128. Wow, that was cool. Okay, let me send it back to you now. Because I didn't get the side, because I wasn't recording your side. Okay, so I'm going to send you 128 sats back. Okay. Send tokens. Okay, I've got a link here, copy token. Then I'm going to go back to Gather Town, and I'm going to send you that.
Okay.
It looks the same. Is it a different invoice?
Take it. It's different. It looks the same, but it's different.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure it's the same.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not because I just took it.
Oh, okay. The first 12 characters were all the same, so that's why I was.
Yeah, that's the encoding. But you should see now that it left your wallet.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna go back over. Look at that! 0 sats in there. Whoa, mint 8333 dot space :3. Okay, that's pretty funny.
That's
is that the domain
that we're running? Yeah,
you guys are nuts, dude. You guys are nuts. Like between the domains, what is that? When it goes one direction and then the other, the
port.
Yeah, when a word reads the same backwards and forwards.
It's an anagram
palindrome
or something.
A palindrome. You guys got palindrome domains. You got a word play on cash and nuts, and y'all are nuts, man. But I'm loving it.
We came up with the jokes before the tech.
Before the product. Yeah, that's always a good sign.
What you just experienced was a real eCash transaction, dude. And the mint in between didn't know shit. It didn't know how much.
But you're the mint.
Who sent from whom to whom. Even if I'm running the mint, I cannot make the correlation between what you just did. Obviously, I know that you were the person at this specific moment in time. There was some transaction, so I can type that to you.
Right, sure.
But increase the number of users by any means, and there is no way to basically to figure out who did what.
And I see this mint URL. You can multi-mint swap, so you can swap from the one to another. Dude, this is super cool. I'm glad we got to actually do this demo here because it kind of ties it all together for me. Yeah, wow, that was amazing. And it was 0 fee too, not even 1 Satoshi. And it was quick as I mean, you said you received it before I even realized it in the browser. So that was pretty nuts. Well, cool, man. Where I guess we'll just wrap up with a quick summary of like where people can find you, more about the project, more about your tweets, what they should do if they want to support.
So definitely find me on Twitter shitposting as CalleBTC, or I'm more on Nostr these days actually. So I don't know my pub key by heart now, but you'll be able to find me there as well. And if you're interested in Cashu and you want to contribute, that will be really the best thing that you could do is just start reading the code and just talk to us. And we're very happy for every person who's interested, be it a programmer, a designer, whether you want to be one of the first persons on the planet just making a UX plan for an eCash wallet, because that's also one of the things that hasn't been figured out yet. So if you want to join the project, you'll find it as CashuBTC on GitHub. And there you'll find all the links how to reach everyone else. Cashu.space is the website where we gather all the information. So you can just go there as well and you'll find all the links. So that's cashu.space. And thank you for the invitation, man. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, man. And you said you work on Ellen Bits too, right? Because I'd be remiss not to mention, because it's sitting here in the browser, it says Ellen Bits when you go to cashu.space. So that's another open source project that you work on?
Yeah, exactly. The Cashu itself, the mint, is implemented in Ellen Bits because it should be as easy as possible to become a mint. And in Ellen Bits itself, when you install it, there's an extension. You just click a button, and then you can become an eCash mint with it's literally 2 clicks a button. And you can do everything that I just explained. Basically, you can become the custodian, because we believe in the simple fact that if you make it as easy as possible to become Uncle Jim for your local community, that we'll be able to win this fight against the big central controllers out there. So please go ahead, look at it, and also look into Ellen Bits.
Wow. While you were doing that, I just created the value stack mint literally while you were explaining it. This is unbelievable, dude. And I screen shared it. So yeah, just as you're explaining how easy it is, it took me about 10 seconds to create a mint. That was wild.
Probably faster than I explained it. Nice.
Wild, man. You guys have built something special here. I'm really excited to see. I mean, obviously the front end can get a little beautification, but you guys are focusing on the right things, the protocol, making the product work. The design is equally as important, but it doesn't matter how pretty design is if it doesn't work on the back end. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And, as I run the Denver Bit Devs, so I'm thinking about how I'm kind of kicking tires, brainstorming, how can we implement this Cashu mint style into some sort of, interactive tipping or, some sort of, micro economy within the Bit Devs community. I think it'd be cool. So if you got any ideas, let me know, but let's not.
Yeah, very cool. Just set up your own mint for the Bit Devs, and everyone can use every Cashu wallet out there to just use the tokens that you mint there to buy the drinks or whatever. Can you
put these on NFC cards? Because I just see that being I don't scanning QR codes or having a copy paste when we're in person.
You could. That would be the ultimate cypherpunk goal of this. But unfortunately, NFC cards these days are too small to have more than 1 or 2 of these tokens. So it will be a pretty crappy wallet, but it's possible. So in principle, it's possible. I'm sure there will be, we'll have NFC cards with more storage someday.
The string is too large. That's a long string of characters.
It's just a couple of characters in my mind. But NFC cards, let's put it that way, NFC cards are just very, very small.
They don't carry more than I tried to put a website with a long tracking URL, and it was that's too, or LN URL can be too long sometimes for an
Yeah, it's a
NFC.
couple of kilobytes maximum. So
Yeah.
I guess it was never necessary for NFC cards, or maybe there's some other issue there that I don't know. But as soon as that's going to be possible, I really want to have that as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
have a card on which I have my eCash, because I just love the idea of streaming that to the receiver without the internet. Just putting your card somewhere and you have the eCash leaving your card and your change coming back into the card or something like that.
Well, build it and they will come, right?